Hi, and welcome to the first monthly wrap-up for 2022. My name's Oliver Brett, Managing Director here at Veritas, and today I'll be taking through everything that we went through in January in regards to our monthly topic and content. This month we actually took a moment to stop and reflect on what were some of our most interesting and engaged pieces from 2021. We chose January to do this obviously because it's the beginning of the year, but also because it was a good opportunity to reflect on the lessons from 2021 before we move into 2022. As you may or may not have seen in the EAP monthly newsletters, the most popular blog from 2021 was the first blog released for July, and that was the month we looked at gaslighting. This blog looked to uncover and describe to you what gaslighting is, how it works, and what are some of the techniques gaslighters might use to evoke that emotional abuse onto the people that they're gaslighting. It was a really interesting topic, or blog, sorry, around a topic that is gaining more popularity and acceptance within society. The most popular podcast that we had for the year was actually around identity. And this is where we had a guest speaker, Zach Hodge, speak to you about his own experiences of identity and the journey he took in uncovering it. It was a really interesting conversation and one that I certainly took away some lessons in regards to identity. The most popular newsletter or article that we released for the year was around the growing disparity around employers' investment in employee mental health and what employees actually look for in the mental health services and support that their employers provide, and that there needs to be a greater connection here to ensure not only that the well-being of employees is being looked after, but also that the funding and resources being dedicated by organisations is actually effective, because otherwise it can be a big waste of time and money for all of those involved. Really interesting that the three most engaged with pieces of collateral were from three starkly different topics. It was really interesting to see that there wasn't a particular topic that stuck out for you, our participants and those that engage with us, but some interesting pieces from a variety of different topics. This shows to us that we need to keep bringing you variety and that there is a thirst there for you to learn more about all different types of topics to do with mental health. So that's a little bit of a review for 2021 in regards to our content. I suppose now as we look towards 2022, it's important that we stop and take reflection on what we learned about ourselves, our lives, and our communities before we dive straight into those goals and expectations for 2022. Our experiences so far of 2022 have probably been a little bit harder and different to what we expected. We've seen a big upsurge in COVID cases across 90% of the country. And this has slowed down what we thought was probably going to be a summer whereby we regained a lot of those freedoms and regained a lot of those experiences that we've been craving for 2 years and haven't been able to do. So as we move into 2022, I think it's important before we dive into it to reflect on 2021 in regards to what were the moments that we felt most fulfilled. Not necessarily happy or that we found easiest, but that we felt most fulfilled. And stopping to reflect on exactly what it is about those moments that really helped us feel connected to purpose or challenged constructively or produce those positive outcomes for us. What was it about? Was there particular things happening at work? Was there particular ways that we were managing our relationships or managing our goals? What was it, or daily routines? What was it about that time that helped us to thrive? Yeah. And thinking about not necessarily the activities or actions you were taking, but the purpose that you were following. Yeah. Or the mentality or mindset that you were engaged in. Once you do that, then also take a moment to think about the times in 2021 where you were feeling most either burnt out or disengaged. Effectively, you weren't thriving. You were either feeling overstretched or understimulated. You weren't feeling like you were in your groove. You weren't feeling like you were positively challenged, and that you were really struggling to find potentially a sense of purpose as well. What was happening in your life at that point? Who were you spending your time with? Who were you not able to spend your time with? What was happening at work? What was your priorities? And what else was happening in your life that might have been perpetuating that sense of feeling disconnected from purpose, overdriven with burden, or underdriven and lack of purpose and connection? Because really what we want to do before we get diving into 2022 too thoroughly is stopping and learning those lessons from 2021 about what helped us and what we obviously want to replicate, and what didn't help us, and the situations or mindsets we want to be avoiding in 2022. 2021 taught us that things are going to continue to come out of the blue. Things are going to be going well, things are not going to be well. Things are going to change due to forces outside of our control, and that is just simply going to be the way of life for the rest of our existence. Not saying that COVID is going to be the cause of that, but other things are going to replace COVID at some point, and they're going to be out of our control. So we want to be looking at, if we're setting goals or we're setting journeys for New Year's, we want to be making sure that we first take a time to think about what actually helped us to thrive the most. Because there still would have been a point. Yes, it may not have been the most happy and thriving moment of your life, but there was still a moment of the year that was better than another moment. And there was a moment that was worse than the rest of it. What was the difference? Despite your experiences probably being quite similar, being in lockdown, not being in lockdown, being busy at work, being quiet at work, whatever it was, at some point of the year, you were having a better time of it than another. What was the difference? Yeah. And not just on surface level, while I was able to go and connect with friends and family more because we weren't in lockdown. The real lesson from there is the importance of relationship. Yeah. And that's what we want to be taking into 2022. What were the key differences between the good times and bad times in 2021 so I can replicate the good times and stay aligned with those values, those priorities, and stay disconnected or avoid a repeat of the negatives, either an over prioritization of work, an under prioritization of work, a lack of willingness to adapt to the circumstances in which I was in. That can obviously be a big one for people pre-COVID and obviously during COVID as well. Those that are willing to adapt have been the ones we've seen that have been able to thrive, or at least reduce the impact of lockdowns, reduce the impact of health orders. Those who couldn't adapt were the ones that got stuck and were left waiting and yearning for the return of normality, which is something that's completely out of all of our individual controls. So make sure you're taking time to do that before you set too far on your journey for 2022, because you will be left vulnerable or becoming undone. We need to learn from each experience we have, and a year is obviously a collection of experiences through that period of time as well. So take those lessons. A year and reflecting on a year gives you 365 different data points to compare what went well and what didn't go so well, yeah? And really investigate what occurred there. Once you've done that, you're then in a great space to start setting goals and journeys for 2022. And my words of advice there, and take it or leave it again, would be whenever you're doing that, whenever you're setting down those goals or journeys or identifying opportunities, really take time to also consider how you're going to adapt if something springs up unexpected that's going to impede your journey or your ability to see that through. Again, a lesson from 2021, I feel, is that you need to be prepared with how to adapt. Spoke about this briefly just before, and for those of you that feel like you may not be great at adaptation, the best way to try and boost your skills in that is to prepare for it, rather than try and do it on the fly when you're under the stress or you're under the pressure or disappointment of needing to change all of a sudden. Actually think about how you could adapt if something, whether another lockdown, whether a disconnect from that, whether a setback, whether a relationship breakdown, grief, whatever it might be, extra busy at work, loss of job at work, whatever it might be, how would you adapt to that moment? How could you now, as a relatively relaxed, calm, refreshed person after the holidays, how would you enter those experiences? How would you adapt to those experiences? Because it's easier to do it now while you're fresh than, like I said, doing it in the midst of things where you might have already been fatigued. You're already feeling stressed because you're seeing the vision and journey start to become harder. And just that little mental prompt of already having a plan in place can be so powerful in helping you to still make the most no matter what 2022 throws at you. And I hope greatly that 2022 does not throw you many challenges or any challenges at all. Hopefully it is a year of great opportunity, great fun and great connection after obviously 24 months of sort of a fair level of impediments to the way that we want to live our lives and what we want to be doing and how we move and how we connect. But rest assured, if it's not COVID, something else, maybe not this year or in the future, will challenge you, will force you need to adapt. And I hope that you can take some lessons from 2021 around how to do that. Because like I said before, over the last 24 months here at Veritas, we've seen that those that are able to adapt have been far better coping with COVID-19 than those that have tried to ride it out doing exactly what they want and become sad and disconnected due to not being willing to look at how they can do things differently or install different focuses when they are forced to disconnect from the way they used to do things or the priorities they once had. From our end at Veritas 2022, we are very much looking forward to. We've got some great topics already in line for this year, some great content that's going to be coming out to you. So I look forward to catching up with you again every month for these monthly catch-ups. In February, we'll have a brand new topic ready to go for you. We're already underway putting that content together. And until then, have a great time. I hope that you get yourselves underway and under a positive start for 2022. And I'll see you next time. Thank you.